thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just doing this ourselves? Okay, yes, okay. This is the voice actor, what's it called? Panel? Q&A? Whatever. It's whatever. Oh, we've still got people coming in. All right, well, should we wait? Looks like there's more people.
Oh my goodness.
All right, ignore I said anything. Just wait until everyone gets in.
That was a dress rehearsal.
Yes.
So this is for people who want to ask questions.
Yeah, okay.
I can move it wherever you want it, if you want it further out.
Yeah, let's put it like right in that aisle so they can line up.
In the aisle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it just Q&A? The people can just line up.
Let's do this. So this is a Q&A, and if you guys want, there's a mic right here, and you can line up there.
Yeah, just start lining up.
Just anyone?
If you have a question, just go start
One
lining up.
person wants to come up there. I guess we should introduce ourselves. Let's do that. So they're like, who are these weirdos?
They're like, what are we asking?
Yeah, what is this? What is this?
I guess I'll start introducing people walking.
Hey guys, so I know some of you are still walking in over there. Hi, welcome to the party. My name is Lisa Ortiz. Some of you, yeah, exactly. I'll cheer for myself. Thank you. You guys know me from, some of you know me from, I did a lot of stuff early on in the Fox Box, including Amy Rose and Sonic the Hedgehog. I was Serenity Wheeler in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm currently Burning in My Hero Academia. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that I've done throughout, and also I have been on Pokemon since the very first season, and I have seen it out, and I am currently directing, so I have been Sabrina, Karina, Oshawott, Vaporeon, and 25 other Pokemon and 10 other trainers. So we'll talk about that. So I'll have a Pokemon panel later at 6 o'clock. We'll chat.
Hi, I'm Kiba Walker. I'm a voice actor. I'm also Sailor Moon drag performer. Hello. Yay! Hopefully some of y'all came to the show last night. We do have a show tomorrow at 1:30, but voiceover-wise, you may know me as, let's see, Koganagawa and Komi in Haikyuu. I played Tanihara in Horimiya. Cider House in My Hero Academia. I also played young Baro in Blue Lock and young Leonhardt in Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. Recently, if you've been watching Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, I played Valentine, which has been amazing. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, I was Long Bronze Gilbert. And then also in Genshin Impact, I played Zulashur and Wyrat and a bunch of other people. And yeah, I used to be on GameStop TV as a host. And like I said, I'm the creator of Ready Player Drag. And if you haven't seen the show, you should come tomorrow and see it. It was awesome. So yeah.
I'm Wendy Lee, and I have been working in anime since kind of the inception. I'm going back to Robotech when it first started out. Vanessa Lewis. I've done several things over the years. Umi in Magic Knight Ray Earth, Haruhi Suzumiya.
You're all late to the SOS Brigade.
And probably my most iconic role, Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop. I'll keep it short. I do want to give Alex Straza a little love from World of Warcraft. I'm doing a very big story arc with her, and it's Dragonflight, and I am the Red Dragon Queen of Itoria.
I'm Johnny Young Bosch. I started out on Power Rangers. I've done a few voiceover gigs, in, like Trigun, Bleach, and some other things.
I'm Johnny Young Bosch. I'm Emmy Lowe. I'm an intern. I've done some things like Lucy in Cyberpunk, Edge Runners. In Genshin Impact, and Sawatari in Chainsaw Man, Suma in Demon Slayer, and Sophie from Gundam Witch from Mercury, and some other stuff.
Hello, my name is Bryn April. You might know me better as Historia from Attack on Titan. My Hero Academia, and Kobani from Chainsaw Man.
Hi, I'm Cole Fiker. I voiced Tada Tomonari in Blue Lock, Marcel in Saving 80,000 Gold, Jean Duvy in Reincarnated as a Sword, and I'm in a bunch of other things like Chainsaw Man, Sacrificial Princess, a ton of stuff. So happy to be here.
Yeah, so now if you have questions, head on over to this mic.
Line up.
Make a best to answer them.
Queue up with your cues.
Queue up with your cues.
Am I the only one?
No, you're the only person in this whole audience with any questions, so come up with like about an hour of them.
Yes, please. Yeah, hopefully. Start us off good.
Yeah.
I believe in you. No pressure. No pressure, right?
Well, I ask basically every voice actor that I meet about this, but what is one of the funniest stories that you can tell that happened either in the booth or on stage or with your character that you had to say a certain line that you just couldn't hold it together or something like that? Just something like a funny story that you have that would stand out.
And we all raced.
Does it have to be about us?
No, but it could involve you.
I can tell you the time Sean Schemmel knocked over the entire screen of the TV set in there and cracked it in half for the rest of the actors during the day. I thought that was funny.
What caused that?
But, well, it wasn't exactly put in together in the best way, so it was fine. It was suspended on a thing. But he was like, this is the TV, and then he had to act with the whole thing in the afterwards. It was great. It was a good time. I had a laugh. That's it. That's all. He felt that. It was good. Okay, it's not as good as a funny story. It was funny to me. Because his face was very funny when he did it.
Oh my goodness. I think one of my favorite things that I've had to record when I recorded Haikyuu, Koga Negawa is such a, he's out there. He is like a golden retriever of volleyball. And a lot of the lines in that dub are just so out of pocket and ridiculous. So one of my favorite parts is that he screams everything, but a lot of his stuff, it's all about things that are so menial. So one of the lines is about nail care. And he goes up to Kageyama and he's like, dude, I want to know about your nail care. I always chip my nails and all this other stuff. And I remember trying to read it and I just was stumbling and I was just like, nail care, yeah, yep. And Kyle Jones, the director, was just like, we're gonna take that again and see what happens. And it was, and I just don't know what about him, but it was the energy was just coming out of me too fast, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. But anything recording Haikyuu is just so funny. It's a great time. So yeah.
And I just want to add that just in his favor, he was just very into his character and was gesturing. That was why he knocked it out. It's totally
Not that he's crazy.
Not that he's crazy. I have done the same thing, but when I did it, I just stabbed myself in the hand with a pencil. It was not as humorous, and it hurt.
I was working on a show called Wolf's Rain. It was an earlier project for me. So I was super nervous about it because it was a really serious character. And, whenever you do anime, you don't get the script ahead of time. And I was used to, from being on Power Rangers, you get the script, you can memorize your lines, you kind of come up with things. But I would like to show up early when I could, so I can kind of thumb through the paper scripts which we had at the time. But I was running late one day, so I skipped breakfast. I'm in there and I do that. I go through and I feel more comfortable about my character, where he's coming from, where he's going. And Mary Elizabeth directed it, so she was great anyways, but she made me super nervous. Again, it was just earlier days for me, voiceover really was, I just didn't want to blow it. And I was afraid of you make a mistake, that's it, you don't get to work in the industry anymore. And so I'm in there and I'm reading the lines I'm going through, and then I feel my stomach is about to start growling. And those microphones are $3,000 microphones, they pick up everything. And so I didn't have any, you can't do much, and so you can in school you can shuffle your papers or whatever. But I just had a cup of water. And so every time I'd feel like it was about to growl, I would just down the water, and it was working. And it was working for a while, and I was like, this is kind of a neat trick. If I feel it, I just down some water and it'll cover it up. But during one point, out of nowhere, no warning, my stomach made a growling noise, but it wasn't a normal one that I could be like, hey, my stomach. No, instead it goes, So it actually sounded like I, let out a fart, thought it was going to be silent, and then I could see Mary and the engineer turn their heads like that, and I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm not going to be able to work in this town again. I think I farted in the booth, and I'm like, I got to explain this. I'm like, that was my stomach, and then she's like, sure. I'm like, no, come on in. You can smell it. Come on in. I get to see it. She's like, and so that was. It was not fun, actually. I felt super embarrassed. It made the rest of that session worse for me. But
Mary loves fart jokes. She loves fart.
Oh, and she
I'm
made fun
surprised
of
she
me.
didn't fall apart with laughter.
Oh, they did.
They
did. But I couldn't explain it. I was like, no, really, whatever.
This isn't about me, but it's a story I've heard from a director that's worked for many, many years. One of the things that we learned that's kind of a little thing that we do is called taking something wild. Mm-hmm. And what that means is we're just gonna roll in for it, we're still recording, but just throw it out again. Maybe there was something wrong with it technically, or maybe there was a little click in the mic, or you stumbled over it, just do it again. We're still recording. But when you're new and you don't know the certain phrases and the little things and like that, you're not going to know what wild means. And so there was a guy that was in the booth, and the director forgot, oh, this is fresh meat. And so the guy's going, he's like, all right, we've got to get to the battle. And then the director said, okay, can you throw that out again, wild? And he goes, all right, we've got to get to the battle. And he was like, oh no. That was great. That was great. That was great. But yeah, so it's just tricks of the trade. You have anything?
I don't have anything better than that.
Alrighty, next question then. So you guys have all done some pretty big and iconic roles, but what was one of your favorite smaller roles or lesser known ones?
Ooh. Anyone? You'll start that way and down this way? Or no?
Just jump in.
Yeah, just jump in.
I have a show that I love so much called The Heike Story, and it's like feudal era Japan, beautiful, beautiful show. There's the mic. Beautiful show, and I play this character named Kyatsune, and it's a retelling of the Heike clan and like that whole entire story, but it's all done in like the art style is like very watercolor, and it's very musically led, and it was a show I recorded during quarantine in my home booth, and I just remember every session was like, Mike McFarlane directed it, and he told me from the first episode, he's like, yeah, you're like 10 at this age, so like, it's a lot of time skipping. So he said, by the time probably we get to your character again, it'll be a new actor, because we're like aging him up. So I was like playing the younger version, and then like 3 episodes in, he's like, okay, it's still like young, it's only been 3 years, so you can still play him, and then I ended up, doing his whole story, and it's just a really beautiful show. It's sad, but there's like so much beautiful history to it, and I think historical shows like that don't get a lot of credit. And so if you want to see it, it's called The Heike Story. It's amazing, and that's one of my favorite like little roles that not a lot of people know. Yes.
I'll say there's 2 things that I did that I really love. We're talking about historical roles. There was there's an anime called Emma, and it goes through there, and I play this maiden. I'm trying to think of her name, but it's all accented. It's some of the best like real accent work. Also did it during the pandemic, and got to like really work on it. And it's just really well done. It just wasn't something that came out a lot, and it was some of the, I loved working on it because you got to be subtle and like really play some stuff, and I got to use more of what's my normal voice, which is fun. And then there's a show that's out now, but it didn't get a big thing that's called Battle Game in 5 Seconds. I don't know if anybody's seen this. It's on Crunchyroll. I play a character, this cat girl called Neon. And it's one of those, like, everybody wakes up and then they're all gonna like play a game that they didn't know they were invited to, and everyone's gonna die. But the story is really good. Everybody dies. Just know that. But it was really, really well done. It was super great. It didn't sort of come out of there, but I honestly think it's some of like the best stuff that I got to work on, because it was this little sultry, high-pitched, beautiful like cat girl that was very evil, and I just love playing that kind of stuff. But it was really fun, and they let me kind of like nuance it out, so it was very cool. So, yeah.
I have one, but I was just trying to search which show it's from. I'm so sorry, I can't remember. But I played the high school girl who was class president of her school, and it was a more primary role. And then they threw me this parrot, which I was so excited about. So I got to play this, forgive me, I don't know how else to say it, this retarded parrot. He just kind of had his tongue hanging out, and he had cross eyes, and he couldn't really talk very well, but it was cookie. And it was just like whatever he tried to say, he couldn't say it. Polly want a crack, a biscuit. Or it was just no, you're not you're an idiot. And so and I got to use all my animal sounds. It was so cool.
And Wolf's Rain is one that's lesser known. Last Exile would be another one. There's one also, Big Fish in Begonia, which was these two guys in China. They spent like 10 years animating this thing themselves, but it looks really cool, and it's an interesting story.
So for Fate, like the bigger roles I did were like Shuten and Helena Blavatsky, but I was really excited because they had me do some bits too, and one of the bits that they had me do was one of the Neko arcs that were just like randomly doing like, I don't remember what they were doing, shoving coal or something. But like, so it was just a chant, now I gotta go, meow, 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 meow. This is what I was born to do.
One that I really love, it was by the animation studio that worked with Mamoru Hosoda, which is the director for Wolf Children and Summer Wars. It's a show called The Boy and the Beast.
Yes.
And it was in theaters for a little while, but I never get people come up and talk to me about it or like have any merch from it and stuff like that. But it's such a cool show. It's about a boy that's kind of on a journey of self-discovery and living between these two worlds. It's very spirited away in a way. It's really beautiful too, absolutely beautiful artwork. But it's fantastic, and I would definitely recommend it. It's worth the watch. Not one of his more well-known. I would say that Summer Wars and Wolf Children are the more well-known ones, but it's fantastic. It's really fantastic. So yeah, I would say Boy and the Beast.
There's a show, it was the first show I ever got to record with Funimation before the merger happened, called The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent.
Yes!
I love that show because it's so wholesome for like the type of show that it is, and like the will they won't they like relationship between the two main characters, and it was a really fun show to be a part of, and I'm really glad that it's getting a season 2. But that's the one I think of the most when people ask that question.
Thank you.
So with the expansion of remote work during the pandemic, have you noticed any changes to the industry that reflect that sort of shift in workplace culture?
Well, a ton of people moved, like the rest of the country. We had a huge shift geographically of people kind of going home to take care of their families or to be with their families, and it was so nice to see everybody who was able to do that, to put their families first and find a way to work from their small town USA or big town, wherever they came from. So that was a really liberating thing, and it opened up the opportunity to work with other talent remotely, which quickly kind of became a smaller circle again and was disappointing for a lot of folks who were getting that chance to sort of break through and work with us. It has left a permanent mark on our business. Many businesses are going back to in-person primarily, and we're still very much hybrid, and it's fantastic because we don't want to drive the 405 freeway, the busiest freeway in the country, at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it takes your 45-minute commute becomes 2 hours plus. So it's really a blessing in many ways. And also it got us to all trick out our home studios. I never expected to be spending so much time with my wardrobe. I never wore anymore, recording in my closet. So I would just kind of, shop in my closet in between takes when I was talent. And yeah, it's just been a very liberating thing, and it's helped us to sort of stir the pot more.
Yeah, for sure.
Take another one? Yeah.
So I was reminded of this when Bryn brought up Noragami at her panel. So I wanted to ask if there's any rules that you haven't done in a long time that you'd like to revisit or weren't able to revisit.
Faye Valentine.
Season 2 of Hori Me is happening right now, and I am just so waiting for Tani Hara to come back. And every time I'm at Crunchyroll, Caitlin's like, I haven't seen him yet. I'm like, I know. I've been watching, don't worry. Although my answer for that, I would love to come back as Caius for Titan's Red Season 2 if they ever do that. But ultimately, there's one character I really love recording, and I was like, oh, I guess this is it. And hopefully Season 3 happens, but Christmas Rose and Beaufry. Beaufry is a wild show. If you've never seen it, it is ridiculous. And in Season 1, Christmas Rose was there for like 2 episodes, and I was like, he's never coming back. And then Season 2 happened, he was in the trailer, and I was like, oh, like, yeah, cool, like, he's gonna be in 1 episode again. And then he ended up being in every episode, but like, as like a side character that just was there to make weird, witty comments. And they gave him an attack, like a special Rose attack, which did nothing. It was useless. But I just remember Natalie was like, you have a special attack coming up, you like gotta study for it, it's gonna be great. And I was like, okay, I'm so excited. I came in to record and it was like, the roses are here! And I was like, that's it? Okay. Awesome. So I just want more ridiculous stuff like that, because it was always these 15-minute sessions that would just be like, here's your one witty thing about like you hitting on this person, and now you are buying fruit, and now you're running away from a bear, and it's like, cool. So I'd love to do more Beaufry, it's such a fun show, so yeah.
I want to do more Yoruichi and join Ichigo, who she's not in the story yet, but I hear she's coming up at the very end of the story arc, according to the manga. Yes.
For mine, it would be Hei from Legend of Hei. It's like a Chinese movie, but it's very Ghibli-esque. It's on Crunchyroll, you can see it. There's also, and like, I heard they're like making a second movie now, apparently. It's super popular in Japan. There's a ton of merch. Mostly of his cat form, which is fantastic. My husband is like, why is there so much hay merch around the house? And I'm like, look, there's an umbrella now. I need the umbrella. Look, there's a toaster now. I need the toaster. And like, he's like in the Arknights game, so I hope like I can at least audition for that when they localize his character in English. And like, there's a web series I wish they would. I just really want to be my cat boy again.
I have one more, I'm sorry. There's a lot I want to do. Could we get another season of Cyberpunk Edge Runners?
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of a built-in sort of destruction. So we're really hoping, there is hope. There are things in the works, but we don't have any grains of permanency yet. But yes, more Edge Runners.
I also want to do more Manabu and Tomodachi game. I would love that. That'd be fun. Yes. That's the other one.
There's 2 I would like to come back for. Hopefully my Knight character comes back for Saints Magic in Season 2, but I'm chomping at the bit for Season 2 of Reincarnated as a Sword to get dubbed, so I can come back as Jean Duvy and actually like get to play that character. I'm very excited for that.
Yes.
Your Spider-Punk is so cool. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for coming out. I was just wondering if there was any advice you all would give yourselves when you first started and were kind of new and were in the studio, maybe kind of nervous, if there was just anything.
Take a lunch break and ask to go to the bathroom if you're not going to find it. That would be...
Don't fart in the booth.
Yeah, don't fart in the booth. These are the gems that you'll take with you your whole life.
One of mine would be to trust that your director is not ever gonna let anything go that sounds bad. You can relax. I remember I would do a take and I would immediately just snap my neck to the director and be like, was that okay? Just like looking for that approval. Like, was it bad? Was it terrible? Let me read your face. Because I was so paranoid and I'm such a perfectionist. But you have to relax, you have to breathe, and you have to realize they're not going to be like, okay, let's move on to the next one, unless it was good. So you can chill. You can chill. So yeah, that would be mine. That was terrible.
It was great for me.
I might say the opposite of that, actually. I feel like, especially earlier on, I leaned a lot more on their understanding of the project, and later finding out that things were not right. And then, so that's after that point, I would always do my research. If I got, either was auditioning or got like a role, then I would do so much research just so I knew, like I had something when I went in. Because I've had the opposite effect to that, where I trusted what I was being told to do, even though I felt inside like it doesn't seem right to me, but I did it. And then, of course, when this project came out, had great reviews, except for me. And it was like, there's a thing about my voice, and I was like, man, I knew it. I even mentioned it. And so from that point on, I was like, all right, I need to.
It wasn't Bleach, was it?
It wasn't Bleach, no.
We worked together.
No, Bleach was
for
fun.
4
Bleach
years.
was, yeah, there was a lot of, we had a lot of fun on
Directed
that
4
one.
years with John in the trenches. I noticed that in your performance. I noticed because I think I might have directed your first ADR session with Power Rangers.
God, you probably did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then when we got teamed up for our 4 years of Ichigo and Bleach, I remember, one, you remember story better than me, especially Waco Mundo.
I knew everything going into that thing.
Wow. And I would consult you.
Right.
If your instincts didn't feel right on, I trusted that. And I trust that in general. I think we all have learned to really hone our inner voice and our instincts and let that guide you artistically and let that guide you in your own career paths. It can make a huge difference in your life when you're in flow and you're not finding resistance. That's usually a universal signal that you're not going in the right way. You're swimming upstream and it's not what is intended for you in your destiny if you're, as airy-fairy as me. But honestly, when you trust your instincts and you listen, when I hear an actor telling me, okay, I'll do that, but I don't know if that's right, it's like, okay, all the red flags are up, then let's get the take that you believe in. And so often that's the way Johnny and I would work together, and it just became very intuitive. Sometimes we wouldn't even talk in between takes. We just go, yep, roll the next one, go. Oh, he's gonna do the whole page, all right, let him go.
Wendy, she gave me a lot of freedom in that. We did have somebody else directing earlier on, and I felt like I was constantly saying, well, that's actually not what's being said in the Japanese, and I had to constantly adjust it. But then when you actually were like, well, what do you think this should be? Even with Hollow Ichigo, and I didn't know that I was going to voice him.
Right.
And I was like, who's voicing? And you were like, you are. Okay. But there's a lot of things like throughout, like even like there's a line that when I go in there and I think it was like during the Iran cars or something, and I'm like, oh, he's like, oh, so you finally decided to join us, and I'm like, and the script was like, no way, it's just 2 flaps, like no way, it just didn't feel strong enough for me. So instead I was like, bite me, and I remember Wendy like looking at the script being like, wait, that's not. She's like, well, actually, let me watch that again, and then afterwards she was like, yeah, okay. So there's like things like that she just knew, like just like, well, this is right. We would always get like what was written just in case.
Exactly. And then do something else.
Unless it was like completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's often our process. Like we have to cover what's written, so the client has that choice, that option. But what we like to do, and you probably do this too,
I do this all the
Lisa,
time. I do this all the time.
I put my bite me as the main.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then the alternative to that is also in the script, and then I'll note that. But if the client doesn't hear the ad lib or the change line, then that may never make it to the final mix. So as directors, we're always sort of cheating in our favorite lines and shaping things and localizing for our audiences.
This is, some of you guys might have been here this morning when I was talking about in the directing thing. I'm like, you're listening not just for the thing or the translation, but also for the subtext. Like, what are we trying to actually communicate to you? And that's a huge thing. So that's like the question of it, like, if you don't speak the language, it's also, like, ask questions. That was like, I was green enough when I first started and like steeped enough in theater that I came in and I asked the context of things. And I know a lot of people come into the booth now and not everybody's asking those questions because they're trained to just pop things out. And so, like, if you don't understand why you're saying something, it's important to know why you're saying it. Like, doing the research on stuff is really great. You don't always get the chance to do that sometimes, but there's a lot more stuff out now than there ever was before. Like, I remember chasing down copies of stuff when I first started so that I could watch it and see what was going on medium that doesn't exist so much today. We don't talk about that. Shut up, everyone!
I watched like so much of Code Geass back in the day in like Spanish subtitles. You know, because it was like, I need to know what's going on. And it was like, I had to pause it.
The 10-minute clips on like YouTube.
Yeah, it was like the whole thing was on YouTube. It's like all of it was on YouTube. It was the Japanese, you know, language, but it was subtitled in Spanish. And so I don't know if they were just letting it go because they're like, well, we need to reach that audience. But that's how I was like, oh, what is that? And then I have to look it up. You know, what is it saying?
That's awesome.
I know, it's ridiculous.
No, I had people. I was like, can you give me a copy of the copy of the copy? Right now, I just need it by Tuesday.
Yeah, I know. Like, there was this one show that I had to record, and it was the studio's first anime that they had ever done. And so I'm so glad that I had like watched everything and read the manga before, because I went into the session and the director was basically like, "Yeah, I don't really know what's going on here. It's so complicated." And I'm like, "Oh no, this is gonna be great."
Or if you'll have like other producers are in there, right? That don't know. Like I remember working on a game. Sorry, we're going off on.
I know, it's interesting.
But I was working on a game, and a director I've worked with many times before that I completely trusted, but there were two producers that would like always chime in, like whatever, like I would give out this version of the line, and then I'd look at the director and he'd go, you know, and I'm like, okay, so I could see them discussing, and then one producer would chime in and be like, hey, can you take that line and make it more sad? And I'm like, okay, put a frown on this. And then, you know, so I do that, and then I see them talking again, and then the other producer comes in and is like, can you make that line sound happy? I was like, you want me to do the complete opposite of what I was just told? And so I'm starting to get like a little irritated because I'm like, what's going on here? Or, you know, and then I see them talking before I get to go again, and then they're like, you know what, can you make it happy sad? And I look at the director, I'm like, like I can't say that because they're the producers. I'm like,
yeah, and I'm like, do you mean bittersweet? Is that a thing?
Right. And I just looked at them. I was like, okay. And I went back to my original read.
And they were like, that was
That's perfect. Yes. And I was like, you guys are just shopping. You don't really know what you're doing.
We do shop. That's true.
Which is fine, but it's like, you know, it's.
Well, it's like
Let the director do that part.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Then they can talk to me in a language I understand,
Right.
rather than I don't know what you want.
Just try acting.
Right.
It's always good to have just like one person on the mic.
Well, that's the thing. That's what we try to do. We're the filters. So when you're in an ISO chamber with no windows or doors in a padded room and you're creating a performance, and you're seeing these people discussing your performance, the paranoia sets in on such a level.
I'm fired.
I think you're fired, totally. And especially when they're like, and what's really going on is like, yeah, that's great, you're right, we love it. But we think they're going, they suck, God. So the director needs to chime in, take all that chatter, and then deliver a single voice back to the actor so they don't go through a head trip that can interfere with the overall outcome of what you do. Yeah. Behind the scenes.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell everyone to do things happy sad from now on. It's going to be happy
Have you
sad.
been directed like by color? Can you make that more purple? I've always been like, okay.
Yeah, that was lilac, Johnny. Can I get something a little bit, you know?
Yeah. On the subject of the clients, though, I remember like with like the video games when you have like the Asian client on the line, and like there are like tons of Chinese phone games now.
Yep.
And so like I remember at the end of the session, like they'll the translator will be like, so talks to clients like, is everything good? Is it how they like it? And they'll like in Chinese, they're like, oh yeah, it was great, we got it. And then the translator was like, Yeah, they think they're okay. If I did not know what they actually said, I would have been terrified.
The language, no, the language, yeah. Language barrier can be funny sometimes.
Hello.
Come on up.
You may ask now.
We're
We're done with that.
What was the saddest thing you voice acted?
Saddest.
Oh, I know.
Start us off.
Your lie in April. So sorry.
No, you're not.
I played the most abusive tiger mom I've ever, I mean, it was horrifying.
You need a tiger mom.
I mean, total, God, she was just, I don't know how many of you are familiar, I think it's Saki is the name of the character, something like that. So sorry. But she's an abusive mom who forces her musician kid to play better by beating him and torturing him and psychological torture, and as she's dying, she's still manipulating him, and it's just, wow, they really dug deep on that, and they thought of me for the role. Forgive me.
Yeah, it's like, it's funny, there's, I don't know if anybody is familiar with the show called Boogie Pop Phantom.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I played, I think her name is Saki, so she's like a young girl who plays piano. And is like under supreme pressure, and like everybody in that show dies, so she winds up. Spoiler. But it was just really sad because you see her, like she winds up taking her own life at the end of it, but you see the way the pressure falls on her, which was sad. Like I think of it for that, but then like personally, so that was really interesting from that point of view. Because I'm used to doing stuff that's lighter, but then it's weird to say that one of the saddest episodes that I also did was a Pokemon episode. No, there is an episode, I played Litten. So you guys, if you've watched it, there's an episode, it was the first time that they dealt with death in the actual series. In the actual series, no one dies. And that is a big thing that happens. In the movies, sometimes there's 3 times where someone passes away. But in this case, it was, he had his mentor was old, went down to see it, and at the course of it, he's old and passes away. And you have the whole back end of the episode is Litten just in mourning, screaming, like crying, and there's it's just a beautiful little leaf that comes by, but it's like yowling into the thing about like actually feeling grief, which is like a weird thing. As it happened, I had 2 cats that had passed away. And when Sarah, who plays Ash, came in, she had just lost her cat of 15 years. And everybody in this session broke down crying. And then we started a thing called Voices for Fosters, and then she started fostering little kittens after that. And then I went in to look at them, and I adopted them, and now I own them. So that is why I have a cat called Liddy right now. But it was a really interesting thing to deal with death in a way that was something that was not something that we'd ever talked about. So yeah, so it's, if you have never seen it, and I think it's a great episode to be able to show kids. It's great to watch, but if you show kids, because that's my thing, is kids process their emotions like the Pokemon do. So that's what I think of whenever we're dealing with them. So but it was we had never broached the subject of death till then. So it was interesting.
I have one more unless you guys do. Please, go for it, because it'll be my second turn.
So Cyberpunk Edge Runner. Last episode, spoiler, there's I remember because when I was recording it, one of my biggest fears is losing my husband. I don't my own death, I'm whatever, but if I were to lose my cat or my husband, that would be the end of everything for me. And so I was crying in the booth, and I just remember one dude was I can tell those are real tears, you're giving them to me, but this is short and we need it. So yeah, that's probably.
No, there were some Oscar-worthy moments. I mean, we really dug deep.
Oh my God, so deep.
Yeah, that was a.
And it was a 9 a.m. session.
So sorry.
That was amazing.
So Heike's story, without spoiling things, that's probably I cried in the booth, because I just remember Mike McFarlane going, so do you want to see what's going on with your character today? And I was like, don't start the session like that. Because every other session was like, okay, this is what's going on, like, here we go. But then he was like, we finished like the last line, and he's like, so, do you want to see like what's going on? And I was like, what do you mean? And he just played it. And I just remember in my closet, like with everything around me, I'm like, just sobbing. It's I don't want to spoil it because I really do want y'all to go watch this show, but it's really, Kyatsune is a gentle soul, like his whole thing, his family's like all these battle, like they're all like, we're going to war, father wants us to do this. He plays the flute and like he's an artist, and so he's softer and he doesn't understand why everyone hates his family's clan, and it really takes a mental health toll on him. And there's just so much broken like stuff we did, but I would have to say honestly, the one that really put me through it was actually 86. I played a character named Marcel, and he is awful. He is the worst character ever. He is not nice, and I just remember we were recording it, and we got to the end of the second season, and he has this kind of like redeeming moment, but it was like all these emotions he had pent up about losing his friend like came out, and he had like just, and they're in this cemetery and it's like snowing, so just already it's like a very cold feeling scene. And I just remember we ran through this entire monologue of his apology, and I just was like, afterwards I was like drained. And who was it that directed me at the time? I can't remember because it was so long ago now.
And there were several directors.
Yeah, there was like 3 that I worked with, but I just remember just being like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how to feel about him anymore. But yeah, both of those are like my 2, because they're just, sometimes it's those little roles that just kind of, they take me other places, and it's really cool, but at the same time I'm like, I don't want to be happy. So, yeah.
We don't like it when our characters die.
No!
We're no longer employed.
That's what I'm saying, hello.
Unless they die in a really cool way.
But then there's like Gundam, where I was like, I love this character, and then it's like episode 2 of season 2, and I'm like, red flags. It was a really cool battle. But
I was a random pilot that just got blown up in Gundam one day. I'm literally on screen just to scream, and then I get blown up. There's a character in a visual novel called The Divine Speaker that I play. I play the Divine Speaker, and going through that game initially, recording those lines and that character, I thought he was just this kind of cold, stoic kind of guy, but as the game progresses, the more is revealed about him and his backstory and like how tragic and messed up he is. So that was probably mine, because it reveals a lot about his past and who he really is at the end of it. So it's good, you should play it.
It's awesome to actually perform your death scenes. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
They're juicy, theatrical moments that we, just live for, die for.
Yeah. And then are unemployed.
It's right. And then the reality sits in. Yeah. There is a feature film classic now, Perfect Blue. And in that film, I was hell-bent on playing the Mima character, the singing role, which I'm a singer and I was prepared for that. They would not even let me read for that role. It was the first time I was told, no, you can't even read for it. Oh, okay. So I kind of tucked my tail and left, and then I found out I was cast as the villainess. So that's why I ended up in that role. It's the first time I really, played a really grotesque character. And at the time, my husband was saying how John Lennon loved to discover the beauty in grotesqueness. And I just really ran with that. And it's sort of a parallel of the Selena story, the true rock star Selena. And it was told 10 years prior to her ever coming to fame or note. But nonetheless, she is a spitting, awful, disgusting, horrid character. And I didn't really know that playing her until much later into the film, where it starts to be revealed in reflections in glass as she's passing different trains and storefronts, and then you see what she really looks like. But to play such a grotesque villain, kind of, it was liberating, and I found that I really enjoyed playing bad guys. So really got into it and started playing more and more of those roles. And a big villainess in Monster High for Boo York, Boo York. I think I play the evil queen in that. Oh no, I'm crossing the stories. Ever After High. Yeah. So anyway.
You guys ready? Cool. So my question's a little bit more about character development. So my friends and I started playing visual novels and turning off the sound entirely to just voice act all the characters. It's a lot of fun, but I find that it's very hard to stick with a character and like develop what their voice should sound like. So I'm curious if that happens professionally in the booth too, where you come in with an idea of like what a character should sound like, you make a mistake in the booth and the director's just running with it. So that's your new character.
Well, I'm gonna jump on and just say, it's interesting you make a mistake because sometimes you have, there's some that come in with voices when they come in.
Right.
But if you listen to anything and if you watch any show, whether it's live action or anime or anything vocally, you will always see, if you watch that first season and then you watch like the 5th season or like episodes in, they change.
Homer
they
Simpson.
alter. Yeah, everything. Yeah, it changes, it develops. So that's normal.
Yeah.
I think that's coming in and thinking that you are fixed and set is it's good to have your concept and come in where you are, but to think that you're fixed and set, nobody's fixed and set. Like any character is fixed and set. Your voice is going to change, things are going to alter. You're going to try and keep it, especially if you're doing something as close as you can. But then the only thing that you don't want to do is then suddenly age somebody or suddenly drop their super pitch if they're young or whatever they are. So you don't want to do something that's vocally going to alter who they physically are. But unless they do. But yeah, I don't think that that's bad. I think that's organic.
It's
that's
cool, honestly.
But there are ways that we maintain the consistency of the voice, and that is we play reference files.
Yes.
And so you're being refreshed. We too sometimes forget the exact placement of a character. It's also really helpful if you remember kind of where that voice lives in your palette. Like, is it further back? Is it a head voice? Is it something that, is right up in the front or, very deep in the back? And also it can help to sort of have a catchphrase that you say to just pop yourself back into character. And then, when you're working on something like that with your friends, you might want to have a recording on your phone or something where you just refresh your memory, play your reference file, and pull it back in. But you will go on a journey of hopefully that the character progresses and has a story arc. That's what we live for, is the development of our characters, and where they end up versus where they begin should be a beautiful journey, no matter how long it is. Yeah.
But yeah, the reference files and anchoring it either in your palette, knowing where you do, or in your body too. I've done there's characters that I would do, and then I came back to I did that with Lena. I knew exactly where she sat, and every day before session I would put my hands behind my back and do that and just be like, "Golly," and then I would go into where she was. But it's a physical grounding. I didn't just do it now. That was not.
Good question. Thank you.
I was supposed to leave early, and I was so excited by these questions that I stayed.
I'm glad you did.
That's great. Now unscrew the.
Come on.
Yeah.
What's the hardest scene you've ever had to film? Whether it be hard on your voice or emotional text?
Oh, hardest.
Because I thought we were going to talk about hottest.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I was like, anything in Titans Bride.
Yes.
The hardest on my voice. Actually, to be honest with you, Caius is very deep in my range. I'm not a deep, I don't think so. And so when they cast me, Japan was like, "We want you to do this because you did it in the game." And I was like, okay. It was so much more to sustain, and it was very nerve-wracking for me because I voice a lot of kids, teenagers. That's where I live. So doing that was very hard for me because it's all deep down here the whole time, and I have to emote with that, and it just feels so tense. But Manabu and Tomodachi game, even though it's in my range, having to be in the stratosphere for 4 hours. I remember at the end of my first session for that season, I literally looked at Jade and I said, hey, it's 10 in the morning. Can we do this later in the day for the sessions? Just so my voice has some time to like, you know, breathe. And she's like, absolutely. I was like, okay, thank you. Because I was like, they're like 9 a.m. I was like, oh my God. And they're like, you need to speak like a 6-year-old. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then there was like some voice cracks in there. And she's like, I love that. You did great. I was like, that was not acting. And then I had to replicate it. So I was like, oh, great. But yeah, I would say definitely Manabu or Caius are like the two high ends of the spectrum for me.
There's been a pattern lately where a bunch of named bits I'll play will end up being characters that come in and have either a mental breakdown or just like sobbing. And that's really hard to do when you just come into the session and they don't give you any context and they're like, now you have to cry. I remember for Hell's Paradise, because I play the younger version of Toma, I walked into the session and the AD, Aaron Dismuke, he was like, so you can cry on the spot, right? And I was like, oh God, what am I getting into? So those usually, it's like, no pressure, really. Could you guys stop that? I mean, I'm flattered, but can you stop that?
A lot of times games, just in general, because there's always some kind of, especially if it's a fighting game, there's always, you know, grunts, fights, punches, getting hit, being electrocuted. It's like a whole list of things, and your big death screams. And that's, you know, one character. Oftentimes you're playing, you know, up to 5 characters in a game. And you don't always have a reference of what just happened. It's like, you're just dying. We don't know what it is. Maybe you got, you know, hit with a sword or a spear or what. And so you have to do these variations of that, you know. And so you can quickly burn out on those, your voice.
8 different deaths, 8 times.
Yeah, right. I think we have, we got 3 minutes.
We have someone who's leaving who wants to say goodbye.
Yeah.
I gotta go next door to my panel, so thank you all. I will see you later. Thank you for having me.
I just wanted to say, do you guys know what we're referencing when we say bits? We're talking about the incidental characters that kind of fill in the chorus, more or less? Yeah.
Yeah.
And starting at 9 a.m., it's not that we can't be there, it's warming up your voice and having your voice ready to go, the downbeat. My first 15 minutes at 9 in the morning is something I always revisit at the end of the day to make sure it still sounded like everything else, and I'll sometimes pick up those lines, and we do that with a lot of the actors too.
Yes.
I would say one of the most challenging things is I get used for a lot of voice matching.
Yeah.
And that can be really challenging. It's when, say, a voice actor is either sick or they're not able to come into the studio for something and it's for a part that they've already been established as. They will find someone that's in the same range and has the same kind of tonality and they will bring them in if it's just for one episode or something. Hopefully they don't have to recast. And then they will play you references, like what we were talking about, references, and you will do your best to voice match that person. It's very rare that it happens, but sometimes it's just unavoidable, especially with us doing the simul-dub schedule, which is just week to week to week. You can't help it sometimes. One time that was especially difficult was I matched for Lindsay Seidel for Spy Family, which was for Fiona Frost. And, well, no, actually, she went in and she recorded 5 lines. So I had 5 lines, 2 of which were reactions to work off of. So it wasn't a very good reference. And what was hard about it is when we are in our upper register, which is like this kind of voice, we are dead ringers. Absolutely, like you could switch us out, you wouldn't know the difference. But this was a lower register character. And so when they were like, oh yeah, Bryn will be a great voice match, they were just thinking that we voice matched each other because we are dead ringers for our higher register. So when I came in and they played the reference for me, I was like, that's not what my voice sounds like in my lower register. And so through the entire session, I was like doing a line and being like, that's not it, that's not what it sounds like. Replacing my voice a little bit, doing the line, that's not it, replacing it a little bit, line, no, that's not it, still not it, replacing it. And it literally drove me nuts, and I left that session exhausted. it was so tiring, and it was probably one of the most challenging sessions I've ever done, and that's topping Attack on Titan and screaming for hours. So.
I think that was our last
What's
one.
the sign? Oh, do we have time for one more, or are we out?
It is 4:30 currently.
Can we take-
Technically done, but we do have some leeway if you need 5 minutes.
All right, maybe we can do a lightning round.
Really quick, yeah.
I have just a single question. Are there any roles that you regret doing? Or roles that you felt like weren't you or weren't a character that you could portray well?
Yes. Not going to talk about those because we'll never get hired again.
Yeah. Like, yeah, for sure. But, yeah.
I had a role that I did when I was 17 for a booby show, and I used a pseudonym, and I got outed by the company. Yeah, so that was unfortunate. But yeah.
We've had some problems with like production companies that go up and then they don't pay the producers and the distributors. We always get paid. I think we've always been paid. I don't think I've ever not, but sometimes companies have to chase down the money. It's rough. Post-production is when there's no money left. All the budget was used on principal photography and all of the music and everything that's going on. We're an afterthought, so everything is always on a tight budget in post-production. It's rough.
Hi, last one then. Is there a role that you really wanted but didn't get and felt like you could have done better?
Of course not.
Absolutely.
It's the end of the panel. Thank you all.
Really quick, thank you for coming. If you want to come say hi, I'll be at my table for a little bit. I have a drag roundtable panel tonight at 8. Talk to the cast of Ready Player Drag, which they're in the audience right here, yes. So if you want to come say hi, otherwise, if you have any questions you didn't ask, you can come see me at my table. So.
And I'll be going back to the table now. See you. 6 o'clock, Pokemon panel, anybody who wants to come out.
Morning, Maya.